Hi, I'm Coach Dishen, a total immersion swim coach based in the San Francisco Bay Area. Today I want to talk about a really cool exercise I learned in the original strength system called dead bugs. So if you look on YouTube or any kind of physical therapy kind of manuals, there's a ton of dead bug variations out there. And so I'd like to go through some of them because we're finding that as we teach swimmers and when we first meet them, oftentimes they have postural issues. And dead bugs are really good for the posture issue of when someone is really overextended in their standing posture. So that would mean they're literally arching their lower back here, their lumbar spine here, and that's what they think is normal. Okay? So what we want to do is figure out a way of pulling them back to normal, okay, which is about here. Okay? Nice gentle curves in the thoracic spine, this part of the spine of the rib cage, and the lumbar spine, which is below the rib cage, to the pelvis. Okay? But when we find that people are like this, okay, their back muscles here are super tight because they're yanking down like this, their hips are shoved forward, and they don't have good activation of their anterior muscles here, okay, to help bring them back, you know, into neutral spine alignment. Okay. Now what happens when in swimming we're finding is that if people are swimming and they're arching, they're actually imparting a downward force at their hips, and that's bad. The hips are going to start to drop, and so when they swim, they're actually arching so hard that they're forcing their hips down as they swim. So dead bugs, I find, are a great way of activating the anterior structures here, okay, to help bring that alignment back into neutral, and so when you swim, you don't have that arching effect and that pressure against your hips pushing down in the water. So let's go through what is a dead bug. So the ultimate dead bug looks something like this. Hands and legs straight up in the air, okay? Opposite arm and leg go down, and returning to the center. Minimal movement in the arm and the leg that's up in the air. Trying to keep them absolutely still if possible. Okay. Now, if you're just starting out with dead bugs, that can be pretty hard. You may find that your back is actually arching because simply you don't have enough stabilizing control yet in your torso, as well as potentially mobility in your shoulders or your hips to be able to go to those lengths. So let's go talk about the dead bug. So to do the dead bug right, you want to be able to stabilize in the torso here. So what's nice about the dead bug is that you're laying on the floor, and especially for people who are often in overextended back spinal conditions, they can actually use the floor to figure out, well, how can I get out of that overextension and back into neutral? Now, granted, if you press your spine all the way to the floor, you're actually not in neutral, but for them, it's still great feedback, because then what they can do is press all the way to the floor. Okay, I'm pressed all the way to the floor, and back off a tiny bit. Okay, so now they can get used to what does it feel like to be neutral, whereas if they're extended, they'd be up like this. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. Okay, so the first thing to do is see if you can get all the way down to the bottom, and if you put your knees up like this, it shouldn't be too hard for most people to figure that out. The hard part is when they start moving the limbs and picking them up off the floor, whether it's the hands or the legs. So the first starting position is, usually it's pushing the bottom of the rib cage down, okay, getting that lumbar spine further to the floor, okay, using the floor as feedback, okay, and then the goal is, can I hold it here when I'm doing those various movements? Now, I should also say that one of the nice things about dead bugs is it feeds into the contralateral or opposite moving patterns of humans. So opposite arm and leg moving at the same time. So that is a movement pattern that we do all the time. It's also in swimming. What that does is it stimulates our nervous system and reactivates things that may have gotten to sleep over the years of sitting and working and not doing physical activity. So that's one of the nice things about doing the dead bug. But we have to start somewhere, and this is where we start. So how do we stabilize this? Well, you can stabilize like, I'm going to crank every single little muscle here, and I can feel my abs here, rectus abdominis tightening up, I can feel my obliques tightening up. So what we call doing that is, yes, you can stabilize like that, but what we call doing that is, that's a high-level strategy to perform a low-level kind of activity. And that's not what we want, because you will wipe out and you will not be able to maintain it that way. Now, a low-level strategy from stabilizing requires you to breathe from the diaphragm. So I encourage you to visit my videos on how do I start diaphragmatic breathing. But let's jump to this point, assuming that you've already gotten there. So the idea is that once I can do diaphragmatic breathing, I can breathe my belly without this moving here. Now I want to train 3D breathing. I put my hands on my rib cage, take 3 breaths, and with each breath, I want to feel my hands go out. Okay, and if they're going out, that means my diaphragm is descending, okay, and creating intra-abdominal pressure here and here, which will activate transverse abdominis and all those deep stabilizing muscles that don't require a high-level strategy. They are what we call a low-level strategy for stabilization. And you can find that if you can do this right, you can stay like this all day long, breathe, keep those legs up in the air for as long as you want without your back buckling or twitching or anything like that. So this is something really good to learn. Same thing happens in swimming. You can stabilize without effort. You won't feel like you're being wiped out. It's a good thing to learn. So 3 diaphragmatic breaths. Make sure the rib cage is going out. Okay, once we get that, let's start from the beginning. So the first thing I like to do with dead bugs is make sure that you can lift one leg up at a time and not let the spine go buckling, okay, like this. So hopefully, take a deep breath in, feel the ribs go out. Can I lift one leg up and back down? Okay, same for the other side. Breathe in. Now if you find that your back is buckling, even just with that movement, okay, go back and reset. Okay, sometimes it may take you just sitting here breathing and feeling that pressure build underneath here, okay? And start over again. Now, then you can do it with the other side. Oftentimes this involves shoulder mobility problems, so you may not be able to get, here and all of a sudden you find like, oh, I gotta arch to get my arms up here. Don't do that. Just stop where you feel like that's as far as I can go, and that's fine. We will have some other things that we can work on for shoulder mobility, okay? So then another thing you can try is, can I lift both legs up with bent knee condition, in a bent knee condition? Breathe in. Stabilize. Bring it up. Now the trick is, can I do this without my back arching, and can I breathe? Right? I'm not twitching, I'm not shaking, okay? So that's a good sign that there's good stabilization going on using a low-level strategy and not a tight, oh my god, I'm gonna die, high-level strategy just to do this. All right. Then the first variation of dead bug they can get to from here is simply stabilize. Try to bring the end of your tailbone up above the surface of the floor. You can have your arms and and legs bent. Okay. Then touch one foot and the opposite arm to the ground. Switch to the other side. And when you do this, pay special attention to here. Don't let it go like that. Okay? Make sure that's perfectly stable. Now the other thing to watch out for is, can I keep the non-moving arm and leg completely still while I move the other arm down. Okay, this plays to this concept of the X, right? Cross movement patterns, okay? Not only just moving the arm, but the ability to stabilize the other arm while the moving arms are going. Okay. Okay, take a break. So then, after that, once you feel like you've mastered that, 5, 10 reps, whatever, then try this. Arms are straight, legs bent. Okay, extend the leg. See if you can keep the spine stable, not arching as you go extend out. Okay. If you feel like you're ever getting tired and your stabilization is suffering, just stop, take a break, take a few diaphragmatic breaths, and start over. Then after that one, then you can see if you can graduate to full up. Right, the goal is, can I keep the non-moving leg and arm completely still? Can I keep breathing? Okay. Can I do it without twitching and shaking those muscles? That's probably some evidence of some high-level strategy. The muscles that you're not supposed to be using so much creeping in. Just take a break, relax. Do this as many times a week as you can. You can just do a little bit every day. You can use it as a workout. We've had people use ankle weights and weights on our arms so that it can become a serious weightlifting activity. Really charges up the anterior core. You can feel it, all in your mid torso here. So there you have it. Dead bugs from the bottom up, and if you have an overextended spine, this will help a lot in curing that. It may not be the only thing that cures it, but there's certainly lots of value in this and helping you get out of that overextended lumbar spine position and get you back to neutral.